Hey folks, Saksham this side from AceIPM. The admission procedure for all the IIMs for the IPM program is finally over. And at this point in time, a lot of people who unfortunately couldn't make it to an IIM this year are considering the option of taking a drop. In this video, we are going to discuss certain pointers which will help you make an informed decision about the same. So without any further ado, let's begin. Now, before coming to the option of drop, let's first understand the competition level and keep that in mind whilst taking the decision whether should you be dropping or not. We had total of 625 seats available this year. IIM Rohtak keeps on changing every year slightly. This year it was 175. Both get increased from 60 to 120. Now next year, the number of seats should ideally remain the same or increase. The increase can be on the account of an existing IIM increasing the number of seats, for example, both get this year, or it could also be because of a new IIM coming up with the IPM program. For example, IIM Nagpur, which will start their IPM next year. However, that IPM is very different than the regular IPMs that we attempt for, and we'll have a separate discussion on that. For these 625 seats, we had a competition of about 25,000 students. Now this 25,000 figure is specifically for the IPMAT Indore examination, and for the other examination it depends and it varies. For example, in the case of IIM Indore, roughly 25,000, IIM Rohtak roughly 16,000-18,000, Ranchi roughly 10,000-12,000, both get Jammu roughly 7,000-8,000. That's the level of competition that you can expect across these IIMs. But even if you take an average of all, the number of seats available are fairly limited and the competition is quite high. And even though you'll have one full year for yourself to prepare for this examination, it is going to be very challenging to get a seat even next year. And it is possible, it is doable, but only if in case you put in the required hard work and dedication to make it happen. So keep that in mind whilst taking the decision of going for a drop year. Now, why have you not been able to get into an IIM this year? This is something that you need to introspect. This is something that you need to reflect upon. And there could be multiple reasons for that, right? You were not able to give your 100%, and that can be because you failed to manage your boards with IPMAT preparation, or even if you were a JE aspirant, then your JE IPMAT, JE boards, that could be one thing. Then that's the time management part. Second could be that you were distracted, social media, phone, there are n number of distractions available out there, and you were also distracted by one of them. Third could be that it was a close miss. You did get an interview call, or even if you didn't get an interview call, you were very close of getting one, right? You maybe missed a couple of marks in a sectional cutoff for Indore, or even for the other examinations, maybe you missed the cutoffs in the range of, let's say, 20, 25, 30, 40 marks. So I'd consider that to be a close miss. So that could be also a case. And then there could be lack of clarity. Maybe you started IPMAT preparation just because your friends were also getting into it, but now that you look and research more about IPM, you see that you are very well fit for this program. You're more and more interested, which is why you want to give a serious attempt next year. And then you might not have been able to perform because of certain health and family issues also. Now the reason you need to introspect and understand the reason of failure is because it helps you understand whether are you ready and fit to overcome that in the next attempt. Because if you are appearing for IPMAT once again, the mistakes that you've already made should not be repeated. And if you feel like they can be repeated, then you should not be taking a drop at all, because in that case you're not as serious for this examination, and then you are better off trying and exploring different career options, different programs that you may enroll into, and they also have good career prospects given your level of interest. Now, a general checklist that you need to follow. First of all, see and look at your score in the IPMAT 2022 if you applied for it. Across all the IPMATs, be it IPMAT Indore, Rohtak or JIPMAT as well. And look at how have you performed. Again, were you able to meet the cutoffs? Did you miss a certain section? Or were you very close to the cutoff, or the gap is very wide? If it's a wide gap, then you need to consider whether you have that confidence in yourself that given a dedicated preparation for the next 8 to 9 months, will you be able to reach to a point wherein you are not only clearing the cutoffs but are clearing it with a decent enough margin. Second thing that you need to consider is what was your board percentage. So in the absence of a good score in IPMAT 2022, the second criteria that you need to come to is your board's percentage. Ideally, you should have a percentage of at least 75% in your both 10th and 12th. Because even though I am Indore, IIM Bodh Gaya will not consider your 10th and 12th marks. Others will. IIM Rohtak has 40% weightage for your 10th and 12th. Ranchi has roughly 25% and Jammu has roughly 30%. And given the weightages are so high, they are cherry picking people who have done really, really well in their 10th and 12th. As a matter of fact, the harsh reality is that in the case of IIM Rohtak, the people who were selected from AceIPM, we have their data, and no person from the general EWS or NC category has scored lower than 80% and has gotten into, an IIM Rohtak. So the competition there is stiff. Most of the people who are getting in are those who are scoring in the 90s or let's say an 85. And it's not to discourage people who have scored low. Of course, if there's a portion, 40% portion, which considers your 10th and 12th, there's also a 60% portion which consider your entrance marks and your interview. So you can, of course, substitute for your lack of board's performance by doing really well in your interview as well as entrance. But if it's going to be your second attempt, you are not scoring well in IPMAT this year, and you also don't have the required percentage to be getting into some of these IIMs who are going to consider your 12th marks and 10th marks as well. I think it's best to, maybe take a partial drop, but definitely not a full drop. Third thing that you need to consider is whether this is going to be a first drop or the second one. First drop is okay. It's, fairly common. 50% of the batch is actually going to be of droppers when you get into these IIMs. But if you're taking a second drop, that is where it gets very risky, and the opportunity cost there really goes up. And second drop, in most of the situations, we do not really recommend that. Even if you're going for a second drop, it has to be a partial drop and definitely not a full drop. Fourth thing that you really, really need to consider is that can the reasons of your failure be worked on? The things that you have, the mistakes that you've made this year, they should not be repeated next year under any circumstances. If you're able to promise that to yourself and you're willing to put in the required efforts and dedication and hard work, then and only then is when you should be taking a drop or considering taking a drop. Now, if you are having a fairly decent score in your IPMAT this year, your board's percentage is also on point, this is going to be a first drop. In that case, now comes the decision whether should you be taking a partial drop or a full drop. Now, to consider that, you need to also consider the options available to you this year. Let's say, for example, a lot of people get into an IIM Bodh Jammu but want to upgrade to IIM Indore next year. And there are people in IIM Rohtak and Ranchi as well who might want to do that. And if that's the case with you, it'll be very foolish of you to not opt for these IMs and directly trying for the best one next year. That's not how things work in general. There are a lot of variables that come into picture, and a lot of things are outside of your control. It's best for you to take what you're already getting and maybe then try for the better ones next year by taking a partial drop and not a full drop. Same applies if in case you're in a Delhi university, any other prominent central university, or let's say you are getting a main campus of Christ, which is Bangalore, Symbiosis, which is Pune, or NMIMS, which is Mumbai. If you're getting all these, in ideal situations, you should always be taking a partial drop and not a full drop. Same applies for people who are coming from engineering background. If you're getting any tier 1, tier 2 engineering college, please go ahead and take it regardless of your interest towards management. You can always come back to management at a later point in time, at the time of MBA, and you can still prepare for IPM whilst being in an engineering college or in any of these colleges as well. Some people may argue that if they take a partial drop, it's going to be hard for them to manage time between their college as well as the entrance. I understand it and I take that point. However, time management is going to be a crucial skill that you should have when you get into an IIM as well, because managing things with that hectic schedule becomes very hard. And if you're not able to manage your college along with your entrance preparation right now, chances are you won't be fit to manage the IPM curriculum once you get inside. And in that case, ideally, learn how to manage time and learn how to steal time and make time for your entrance preparation whilst being in some other college. Of course, you will have to compromise a little bit on your first year studies, academics, extracurriculars, but if you feel like those compromises are worthwhile, if in case you get into an IIM, then definitely for sure go for it, and please take a partial drop and not a full drop in this case. You may take a partial drop only and only if in case you have budgetary constraints. For example, if you get into an NMIMS, you'll spend anywhere around 5-6 lakhs in the first year, including your living expenses, and that may be outside budget of a lot of people, right? Same goes with IIMs. The fee over there is fairly high, but I'll take that as an exception and still go and join them for at least the first year, because getting a loan for IIMs is fairly easy, so you can opt for a loan should you be able to get into an IIM Indore next year. So in that case, budget does not become a factor. But in case you are getting into a private college and there, it does not meet your budgetary constraints, that is when you can consider taking a full drop. Ideal situation, if in case you feel like you can manage time, if you're already getting a decent college, always go for a partial drop and not a full drop. Full drop is for people who may have budgetary constraints, who may not be able to get a decent college this year, and what they're getting is it does not really hold a lot of value. And that is only when you take a full drop, because full drop, let me tell you, is going to be mentally exhausting. Now, if in case you're preparing for IPM, you want to give it another shot, you can also have a look at our offerings at aceipm.com. The link will be down in the description. We do have a comprehensive course available, and which really works well for people who are on their drop year. So you might go check out the demo lectures, and if you like it, you might as well enroll. That's it for today. I hope I was able to help you out with your decision of taking a drop or not. I'll see you in another video very soon. Till then, take care, stay safe, goodbye, and all the very best.